So guys, I've got something really cool and a little bit different for you today. And it actually all started with the trim bezels. So thinking about your differences between your 87 to 93 Aero cars. Now guys, we got a whole different set of differences if you go back and look at from 79 to your 86 cars. But we're going to focus on today on your 87 to 93 cars and the differences. And most of those differences are in the interior, but guys, you're going to want to wait till the end of this video. I've got something really cool to share with you where there is probably the most rare Fox body from the factory, where they only made 2 of them. I'm going to give you some of your most rare Fox bodies from 87 to 93 at the end of the video. But what we're going to do today is focus on your differences of all your minor changes between each model year, and we'll go ahead and get started on that now. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. This is the week of Christmas. This is the week that we celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ. And I just wanted to say that I am blessed and my family is blessed well beyond our deserve. And thank you guys for everything that you've done to support the channel. Also want to mention that these trim bezels have still continued to sell well above any expectations that I would have had. Guys, these trim bezels, I never would have guessed that these 2 simple pieces of plastic would have helped so many folks. Guys, y'all do not know how cool it is to think that something that I made is going to be in so many Fox bodies out there. Guys, I think by last count, I've sold well over 300 of these trim bezels. Thank you so much for allowing me to contribute to the Fox body community. This mod is not for everyone, so I would highly recommend that you go back and watch my videos on these. I have 2 videos out there on them. I'll put one of those cards up here. One's for your 87 to 89 cars, and the other one is specific to your 90 to 93 cars. If you guys are interested in purchasing one, I've got the link down in the video description for here. Also, you can message me on 417 Fox on Facebook. These trim bezels really got me to thinking about all of your minor differences on these cars as they were produced from 87 to 93. When I was developing the trim bezel to fit my car, I get tunnel vision. I did not even think about that there was a difference in 87 to 89 cars up to the point where I was getting very close to finishing and being prepared to sell my first trim bezel. And I had this thing ready to go, and I was just about saying, you know, I thought I would sell 20 or 30 of these. I was just getting ready to start selling them. I said, you know what? I think there is a difference between your 87 to 89 cars versus your 90 to 93, and I bet this will not work for your 87 to 89 cars. So I reached out to one of my friends who's also a subscriber who lives here fairly local to me. I messaged him and I said, hey Ryan, can I come out and take a look at your car? I just need to see if this trim bezel can work on that HVAC. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't work at all. We popped his dash bezel off, put that in there, knew immediately it wouldn't work. So I went ahead and put these out for sale. I'm glad I did, for specific to 90 to 93 cars. And there were so many overwhelming responses wanting me to make one for your 87 to 89, so I developed those as well. So that got me to really thinking about, gosh, what are all the differences between your 87 to 89 cars? So that's what we're going to talk about. Most of those differences, and guys, we talked about this on one of my live streams, most of these differences are interior. Most of your primary main differences are a lot of changes in the interiors of these cars. I took notes from when I was on live stream, also some research that I've done, and I knew some of it, but gosh, I'm going to tell you, it's a rabbit hole. So what I want you guys to do, if there is anything that I missed, and I'm sure there's plenty, make sure you comment down in the comment section. And if there is enough comments in there, we'll do another video. We'll do a part 2 on this. So let's get started. Now guys, if you're like me, sometimes I just want to know why they made the change. So when we think about interior stuff, we're not going to get into all the different colors of the interior changes because my gosh, that gets complicated. But we will get over into specific differences on the interior. So that's where we're going to go ahead and start. So of course, we mentioned on your 87 to 89, HVAC itself is different than your 90 to 93. Now your 90 to 93 and 87 to 89 are interchangeable. What if you start looking for some hatch plastics, quarter plastics for your hatch? That's another big difference. So in 1989, if we think about, well, the difference is you got a square shock hole cover versus a round shock hole cover, which started in 91. Or no, and sorry, the round shock hole cover, which started in 1990. Well, the difference was that I don't know why Ford changed from square to round, but that whole quarter plastic had to be changed, and that was because of federal regulations, federal safety regulations changed where the passengers in the rear seat had to have shoulder belts. So if you'll go back and look on your 87 to 89 cars, they only had lap belts in the rear seats. And then if you'll look, you had the shoulder belt provision put in from your 90 cars to your 93 cars. Also with that, if you think about your privacy shade cover in a hatchback, that is also a little bit different as well because the connection is a little bit different on your 87 to 89 cars that had the privacy shade in it. In 1990, actually had an armrest delete you could get. I think LMR actually still sells those armrest deletes. I don't know why in the world you'd want one. I mean, it looks clean, it looks nice, but I kind of like my armrest. In 1989 and a half, not all 89 cars got it. And some of this you get to thinking, well, why wouldn't they put it on all 89s? I'm assuming at some point that what they call the half year for 89s is when they started putting the pony on the dash that has the 25th anniversary on it, and that also ran up through 1990 for your 25th anniversary insignia. That lasted on those cars up to the end of the production run for 93. Of course, they just took the 25th anniversary off of those. Now, I remember my buddy Donnie back in high school, me and him both had Fox Bodies back in high school. I had a 91 that was this color, and he had an 89 blue LX50 convertible. Loved that car. And his was an 89 car, but did not come from the factory with the pony. And I remember back in high school, when these cars were only just a couple of years old, he ordered and put the pony on his car because he's like, well, heck, my car's an 89. Why doesn't it have it on there? Well, they didn't put them on all 89s until what they considered what was the 89 and a halves. Think about your instrument clusters on these cars. So from 87 to 89, they actually only had 85 mile an hour speedos, even in your 5.0 cars. Now in 89, about halfway through, they started putting 140 mile an hour speedos in them. So if you have an 89 car that's factory 140 mile an hour speedo, not a lot of those cars around. So let's talk about seats just a little bit. So your sports seats had typically only been available in your GT cars up till 1989. In 89, they actually became an option in your LX cars. Now you want to talk about a unicorn, the beige interior on that with sports seats in one of those cars that was an LX. There's actually one of my subscribers who actually bought one of the trim bezels. Him and I got to talking about that online. He also actually has a sand beige car with the beige interior. I'm trying to remember what color that is right offhand, but has a beige LX with sports seats, 89 model with the tweed interior. Now that's a unicorn. So your door panels, starting in 1990, that's when they removed where your mat pockets go. That used to be carpeted right there, and also above the armrest. Started putting the vinyl above the armrest, and also you got the lovely, always sagging mat pockets that got added to those cars. Those are a love them or a hate them item. 1990 welcomed the airbag. Do we love or hate the airbags? That's up for discussion. I do know what I hate about the airbag cars. no tilt steering. So all of your 87 to 89 cars actually had a tilt column. Now, why Ford couldn't figure it out how to have a tilt adjustable column when they introduced the airbags in these cars is beyond me, because that basic same steering wheel that was in an F-150 had tilt steering. Why they couldn't do that in a Fox body, who knows? If somebody knows why they couldn't do that, please put it down in the comment section, because I would love to know. So as we're talking about your sport bucket seats, they being an option in your 89 and 90 LX cars that were 5.0 cars, they actually became standard starting in your 91 cars. If it was a 5.0 LX, you got your sport bucket seats. So also with the addition of the airbag steering wheel, the bezel underneath the steering wheel changed. If you'll notice, it's actually an afterthought, where you actually used to have a fuse panel cover right on the bottom left-hand side of your dash. They literally just kind of screwed it to the bottom of the dash support and lowered it. So all you guys that have your 90 car, your airbag cars, that same fuse panel is just now open and under the dash versus being behind a cover. Yeah, that was an afterthought. Another seat difference was your 92 and 93 cars went to a solid bottom, where you lost your pull-out knee bolster on those cars. Also in 93, even though we haven't really touched very much on interior color differences, 93 was a 1 year only opal gray car. If you got a gray interior, it is a 1 year only color. Also with seats, 1990 cars was the first year of the smaller headrest on your Aero cars. The ones before that had the big headrest. I didn't like the bigger headrest. Some of the guys like them. I like the smaller headrest. The guys, I know there's a few other interior differences, like where you lost your map light. If I'm not mistaken, the map light, I think 91 was the last year of the map light. But that's about all of the interior differences that I can think of, other than all of your different color options of interiors through the years. So another thing I'd like to discuss just a little bit is, what are some differences on under the hood? Your 87 and 88 cars were speed density cars versus your mass air cars that started actually in 88. Now, if you have an 88 that was a California car, it actually would have been mass air due to emission changes and restrictions that are different in California than they are the rest of the nation. So, but all other cars that were 87 and 88 were still all speed density. Now, speed density works great until you start modifying it, because speed density will not take into account of different air volume versus fuel volume. So it's only made to work the best with what the current factory setup is. So that's why, guys, if you're going to tune your car, you run into issues with a speed density car versus a mass air car. I know that the conversions are pretty easy on these cars. Another one of your changes to your engine, primarily, the horsepower actually went down over the years, and that was due to mainly the way Ford figured the numbers. Part of it was when they went to mass air, they actually lost a little bit from the original 225 horsepower rating in 87. I think 93 cars were actually rated at 205, but although those cars are still very similar in power, Ford through years made some minor changes, like with exhaust, catalytic converters, and things like that, that made the horsepower ratings go down. On top of that, how Ford figured the horsepower ratings. Now in 93, a lot of folks did not like the 93s. I remember back in 93 when they first came out, there was a lot of folks that were really upset that Ford went from a forged piston to a cast piston. And with a cast piston in the 93 cars, they would not take, say, boost, which boost really wasn't a big deal back in the day. Most folks were putting, 75, 100, 125 shots of nitrous on their cars, and they were a lot more prone to burning a hole right through the top of the piston, since they were not a forged piston in 93 cars. I don't think there's any other differences that I can really think of on your engines. Now, if you guys can think of something else from your 87 to 93 cars, put a comment down in the comment section. So let's talk a little bit about exteriors. If you want to talk about a car that you have that's unique, think about, so 87 and 88 cars, you could get T-top options. Okay? Think about this. Could you have an 88 car that was a T-top that was also mass air? Yes, you could. Because 88 cars, if it was in California and it was a T-top car, you bought a mass air T-top car. So you're talking about a rare breed. That's a rare car right there if you've got a factory mass air T-top 88 car. Now guys, we're talking about wheels, your Fox Body wheel options. I'm not a big fan of the 10 holes. They're okay. I hate a turbine wheel. Some guys love them. I am not a fan. I really did not like the wheels on any Fox bodies that were aero cars until 1991 when your ponies came out. I loved the ponies. That's what was on my car. I'll shoot a little picture of my car back when I was in high school that I had. This was back in 1993, and I had ponies on my car. Now, not in this picture. These were still the factory color, but I ended up later taking the center caps off of my car and I painted them black, just to give a little bit of difference. Heck, I was always doing something. I don't even want to talk about some of the stuff that was stupid that I did to that car too, other than the way I drove it. So along with that, in 91, Ford also changed, which this car here is a 91, they changed the front fender on these cars. That was to accommodate the larger wheel and tire combination. So that means this side splat here is actually a different size on a 91 to 93 car than it would be on an 87 to 89 car. So another really cool tidbit of information is, so 91 was actually the last year of body moldings on your LX cars. So this molding on your LX car, your 91, was the last year where that was black. So in 92 and 93, your LX cars actually had body color moldings on them. Now another interesting tidbit is if you have a 91 LX 50 with ponies and black trim, that would have been the only way you could ever had ponies and the black side and the black molding on a Fox Body LX. Would have been the only year. So guys, a lot of you guys didn't know this, but this car is originally an LX car. I'll put a picture of it, how I bought this car here, and it was, of course, black body moldings, which Matt has, by the way. Guys, thanks for sticking with me to the end of the video. We're going to do a quick rundown on your most rarest color combinations from 87 to 93. So in 1987, the rarest combo was a LX50 Vert that Ford made 27 of that was in the color of dark sable. In 1988, they made 23 sand beige LX50 notches. That sand beige is one of the coolest colors in my opinion, especially on a notch. There's something about a sand beige notch, and it really makes me think of your SSP cars that was actually like the sand beige, like your Florida SSP cars, and I think a couple other states had that sand beige along with the black two-tone color combo on the SSP cars. In 1989, Ford made 67 tropical yellow LX50 notches. In 1990, get this number, guys, Ford made four medium titanium LX50 convertibles. In 1991, the rarest color was light crystal blue, and it was in an LX50 convertible, and Ford only made 65 of those. Now, in 1992, we're going to save those for last. So for 1993, guys, this one has been up for much discussion. Ford made 9 Performance Red 93 Cobras. Now, Performance Red is actually the same color as far as color sheen as your Vibrant Red cars, okay? But Ford, the first 9 of that production run were a single stage car. So they were a non-clear coat single stage paint that was the same color as your Vibrant Red cars, which was called Performance Red. And that color was actually a color code of EY. Now your ES car, which is what any of your 93 Red Cobras will be, is actually a clear coat car. And how I learned this, before I even looked up the data on this, when I did my Cobra clone, the one that was wrecked 3 weeks after I finished it, I'll put some pictures up here of it. I I went to my paint rep, and he was getting my paint mixed, and he had to order more orange pigment. That is a very orange red. Actually, in the formula to mix that paint is 50% red and 50% orange pigment in their formulation of it. So it's a very red orange. I love that color. This car is actually vermilion red, which is EP, but the ES clear coat color, which is what you're going to see on most of your 93 Cobras, but if you have one of the 1 of 9 that has EY on the paint code, that's it. That's 1 of 9 cars for 93. And the most rare color combination for your Fox bodies from 87 to 93 was in a 1992, and there were only 2 of them made. Only 2. And this is going to surprise you guys because the color is not rare in itself. It's just rare on this version of the Fox body. So Ultra Blue is the rarest color combo for a 1992 Fox body on an LX50 notch. And when you think of Ultra Blue, which was actually the color that I painted the 1991 GT that we did, that was the two-tone Cobra clone, and I'll put some pictures here of it, that car was pretty dang common to have 91 and 92 cars in Ultra Blue, especially Ultra Blue two-tone cars that were GTs. But evidently, Ford only made 2 of them with Ultra Blue that was in a 50 notch. Now, that's pretty cool. Guys, so I'm going to wrap this video up. I hope you've enjoyed this. I thought it was really cool kind of going down the rabbit hole of some of the differences on these cars. The color stuff was amazing. I never would have guessed in a million years about that 2 cars only being Ultra Blue and 92 that was a notch. That's pretty dang interesting. So if you guys like this kind of content, hey, we can do some more videos like this. Make sure you blast those comments. Make sure you hit that like button. And if you aren't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And guys, Merry Christmas, and I'll see you on the next one.